We are going to get started one more time here before we get you guys some more food. So Eric Cohn and I am Johanna, by the way. I think I've been talking to you all and I have not introduced myself to everyone. I work in marketing here at RunSignup. Eric.
I'm Eric Cohn, 17 years in the industry. I'm vice president of business development, which entails a lot of different things. But one of them is I get the benefit of talking to a lot of large organizations, not just in endurance, but outside of endurance. So I get to talk to Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, those type of organizations that are hosting endurance events and ticketed events. So, and then charities as well.
So what we're going to do is kind of talk through some of the numbers that Bob kind of brought up earlier today and other stuff that we're seeing, and look a little bit at marketing from the perspective of trying to figure out how we get back participants we had before, how we find new participants, and start to regrow our events back to where we were pre-pandemic or even better. That's what I basically just told you. What's happening with race registrations? So obviously, I think Bob went through some of this earlier today. And when we look at things across the board, registrations are down, but it's a little bit more complicated than just everything is down, everything looks bad. We do see some nuances that make it look, make us think that there are areas for opportunity and areas for growth. These are two different charts just looking at over the course of the last 6 months. 2019 numbers versus 2021 numbers. This is kind of where you're looking at across the board. Everything has been down. On the bright side, we are still showing growth compared to 2021, which means we are still moving in the right direction. We are still seeing races continue to improve and continue to come back. This is an interesting one. For me, at least, I think it tells us something about what people are looking for, because we found very, very, very small races, under 100 people are actually growing. Obviously, they have a lot of room to grow because they probably came out with a small event built around a community. There's a lot of room for growth there, but they did fine. And even smaller races, 100 to 500 participants, saw very little impact. They're much closer to their 2019 numbers than our mid-size and larger races. I imagine many of you here work at larger races. At the same time, there's also, I know a lot of people who support and work with a large number of races, some of which may fall into those smaller numbers. What I really take from that, though, is that there are participants who still want to go to races. There's something that is resonating about some of these smaller races that may be harder for larger, even mid-sized races to actually achieve. And some of that just may be community connection, the ways in which people actually really interact with those events. And so finding some ways to bring some of those elements of people feeling like it's really their event into some of the larger organizations. Registrations by age. So we've been doing a lot of looks at data for, I guess, like 6 years or so. We pull a lot of data to kind of see what's happening in the industry. And as far back as 2016, 2015, we were noting that our younger runners, the percentage of runners who are under 30 was dropping year after year. So this is a trend that started well before COVID. COVID certainly accelerated it. We've seen a pretty big drop in the number of participants who are under 30, which is a cause for concern, both because you want those runners showing up now, but also because what's going to happen 10 years from now? Are they going to turn 30 and start joining your events, or are you just never going to be able to get them? So when we're talking about a lot of marketing, we are trying to think about how you can do things a little bit differently, think about events a little bit and with a little bit of a different perspective to try to bring new people in and show them that the industry is for them as well. That's kind of the 3 areas that we want to look at. What happened to your runners who had been coming for years and years and years? Are they still there? How do you get them to put you back on their schedule? A lot of people's patterns and traditions and habits have changed. And so it may take multiple touch points to remind people of why they used to come every year and to get them back. So kind of not giving up on that group of runners, making sure you're continuing to have touch points with them year after year to bring them back into the fold. That goes to the, I have things duplicated there. Reaching new runners. bringing back in the younger runners. And what we really want to talk about is being flexible and creative. If you've been coming to marketing sessions with us for years, you're probably somewhat familiar with a lot of these tools. And what we're trying to think about here is kind of like we saw with COVID when, you guys couldn't put on normal races, you got really creative and put on really unique virtual challenges and events and thought about things differently. We're not saying do that again. We're saying get creative again and think about different ways to use these tools to bring people back and to reach new runners. So first thing, back to the basics. If Bob shared this story today, I missed it, but he shared it in several webinars and events throughout the year, just talking about how his local 5K or 5-miler that they put on, how hard it's been for them to get the same level of enthusiasm back just within the organizers. You guys are professionals, which is not a professional race director, but you're here, you clearly have energy and want to get back. Races that you work with may not, or you guys may still also be having a hard time getting back into the rhythm of what did you used to do, stuff that maybe you did your first 2 years that you didn't need to do anymore because you reached out to all of your community stakeholders, and in years after they were coming back and doing that work for you, they forgot that they need to do that. And so kind of going back and figuring out how you built your race to begin with and starting over. So the one quick thing I'll note on here is how we think about marketing with you guys. Your data is your data. So we do all the time get emails. Can you send out an email blast to everyone in your system about my race? Or can we buy advertising to advertise our event and other events in the area? And the answer is always no. And the reason for that is that you don't want us taking your participants' data and selling it to other events. The industry is very communal and helps each other out a lot, but we don't want to create a situation in which we're pitting you against each other because we're selling one person's participants to another. So your data is always your data. We want you to help you market your event. We're not going to do that for you. Most effective marketing comes from sources you trust. Ads can be very valuable, particularly if you have a lot of money to put into them. But the most effective ROIs you're ever going to find are programs with referrals and teams and incentives where you can get people to sell your event for you, because people are always going to trust the people that they know. And technology matters. We want to make this as easy as possible so that you can both implement things, but also see how it's working. Because I think a lot of what's going to happen in the next few years is a lot of testing things out, trying new things. And then you want to know, this worked, I want to keep doing it. This didn't work, let's have that program. Very, very basic. I said we were going back to the basics. What makes your race, special, unique? Why would someone sign up for it? You need to kind of keep that in mind in everything that you're doing. Every race is not for everyone. No race is for everyone. So remember what the things are that make your race really unique and focus on those. Don't try to worry about, maybe you have a really low swag, no frills event. You don't need to market to the people who are looking for a large, medal and a t-shirt and a trophy. Focus on the runners who are really there for the experience of running. And that's just an example. There's all sorts of ways that can go, but make sure you've identified what it is that people pick your event for. Reaching new community spaces. There are a lot of runners out there. It can be really hard to find them, but they tend to gather in groups. So go back to your local running clubs, your local running stores, talk to local gyms. A lot of them are looking for things that people can do outside of their program. Local nonprofits, most races, as we've noticed, work with a nonprofit. If you have an event that is a little bit stale, maybe you find a nonprofit that has a really excited base where they might be interested in coming out and both helping you with some of the event stuff and bringing out some of their supporters to help raise money for their event. And that can be a really good symbiotic relationship. Community festivals and events, finding anywhere that you can be visible within your community, and then other places in which you have a gathering of people. So in kind of schools, daycares, churches, work with other local race directors, figure out if there's a way you guys want to bundle some of your races together and sell them as a package. If you trust each other and you want to work well together, that might be a way to kind of help each other grow. Because in general, the running industry is pretty collective. And if there's more runners in the pool, there's more runners who's going to do your event 1 year and then someone else's another year and come back to yours the next year.
I'll add one more in there. Almost everyone in here has probably had a sponsor. and most sponsors have a good database of employees. So in your sponsorship connections, make sure that you're offering either discounted entries or maybe a whole bunch of free entries, but in return, they have to promote it to all employees. So now all of a sudden you're getting the upside of, I got the sponsorship money that covered the entries and I'm getting marketed to, let's say, 3,000 local employees. That's an example.
So I use running clubs here as the example, but this also goes for literally any community you want to step into. Don't like go on their Facebook one time and say you should come to my race. Nobody knows who you are, and that's not going to be very effective. It's just a waste of your time. These are time intensive things, which is why we say it really is going back to the basics. If it's not you, see if you have other excited runners who are able to help, people that have come to your event for years who want to be the one to say, I'm going to go to the Ashland Road Runners today. I'm going to bring them some swag from the race and try to encourage people to sign up. So if you can get a real in-person presence, talk to the club leader instead, so they're on board, they're excited to have you there. Bring stuff. A lot of times you have a million t-shirts and swag sitting around in your basement. It's a great thing to give people for free to say, this is my event, it's not going anywhere. So you can give away the free stuff and they'll be excited to have it. Also, I will say, we've seen this a lot in this area. There are tons of new clubs in the last 2 years. So take a look at what's happened in your running community. Things have shifted and changed since you may have talked to them. So reach out to some of the new players and see, what they're doing and what they can do to help you. There's going to be a whole session on pricing tomorrow that's going to cover this a lot. But just really quickly, there's a couple of different ways you can provide discounts to running clubs and also to other organizations. Club member discounts, if they have a club that's on RunSignup, they're a setup formal official club on RunSignup, they can actually auto apply a discount to their registration. That's really smooth and easy for people if they're set up in RunSignup. You can also always do a coupon code or even a referral link with that, or, it's easier for people to share, but that's not necessarily a bad thing if you're trying to grow your race. Maybe you're fine with actually extra people using your coupon code.
We have about 1,500 clubs using our platform right now. So you can do a pretty quick search to find local ones towards a race and offer discounts to them. I highly recommend promoting to the race or to the club that you're going to offer a discount, and maybe they will market your event to their runners, especially if you're a larger significant event in the community. They're going to promote it and say, hey, because you're a member of XYZ club, we get a $5 or a $10 discount. And that is a symbiotic relationship at that point.
So if you've seen anything today, I think you've seen something about this, that they believe this is the third time. If we repeat things, that's because we're really excited about it and we really think it's a good idea. If you'd asked me 3 years ago if we should tell people to do QR codes, I would have told them that that was hilarious, and obviously not. But they are everywhere again. People know how to use them again. And it is a really good, easy way to get people where they are. The one thing we always talk about is keeping people engaged right when they are. It's why you want your registration to be easy and fast on a phone, because you don't want people to say, oh, I'll do it when I get home, and then not do it. So this is the kind of thing you can share with community partners. If you have even local, like a local doggy daycare where there's a lot of adults who come in and out and they are friendly with you and they're willing, they have, community information there. It's the kind of thing you can share there, or on a community posting, have up around your neighborhood and try to bring people in that way and just let them know it happens. On the flip side, it's also a great race day tool if you want to then, improve the experience on race day and say, here, your photos are right here, and they can immediately see where their photos are, go to the results. So it works kind of in two different ways. And I recommend doing both the QR and the text too, because people have really different comfort levels with different types of technology, and that just gives them a lot more options. Yes. So
yeah,
Oh, sorry, that is the next slide. I was gonna say, I thought I grabbed a screenshot of that. Yeah, if you go to promotion links, there's one tab that is the QR code, and you can download in a couple of different sizes. And then there's a different tab that is the text codes, and they'll show you the different text code for each different page on the website that's available. Yeah. Not right now.
And if you're asking me, if you're doing a whole bunch of printed posters, you might actually do source tracking to see how many people are signing up from the printed posters or pamphlets that you might drop off. So then you're going to go into source tracking, you're going to create that URL, and you're going to go to a QR creator website to get your QR code.
And if you're confused by what he just said, he is going to talk about source
I
tracking
will.
later.
You can make it any URL you want. This one right here, I believe, takes you to the race website cover page, more or less, or that home page. Okay. Live registration events, I think we forget about this sometimes. There's a lot of things that happen in a community. There's art fairs and festivals and, you know, an actual race expo. Talk to those communities and see, a lot of times there's a table that's available there for vendors for like $20 to sit there, have information about your registration. You can also bring both the QR sign so that they can do it on their phone if they're there talking to you, and then bring a kiosk computer, have on-site registration set up so they can actually just come in, register right there. And it's another example of just grabbing people where they are and trying to get them engaged right then. Race calendars, these are really effective. I think my screen is covering the fun stat there, but RunSignup affiliates contribute about 10% of registrations to events in 2021. And what that means is that's places that are tapped into our API and automatically pull your race information out onto their own race calendars. So a lot of those are big calendars like Running in the USA or halfmarathons.net. But we also see a lot of those that are smaller. You know, there's a timer or a running store that's pulling in our race calendar automatically, and they're getting your information if you're within their parameters. That's already happening. You don't actually need to do anything for that. But given how successful we see that being, there are absolutely calendars out there that don't tap into us. So look around your local area, find out what those are, see what you need to do to get on them. A lot of times it's free. There are services you can pay to help get you on every calendar. But if you don't want to do that, you can also just go through, you know, find your local media, again, running stores, any sort of workout group, young things for young people to do in a city. Look for all the calendars you can find. Cross-community engagement. All of these different groups want to be a part of a team. 30% of our participants join a team when it's available. That has been consistent for years and years and years. People love to do things together. So anything you can do to get people to join as a team, we recommend it. There's also a team session at 4:15 today. That'll cover a little bit more about setup for teams and how you actually operate those. Adding an incentive can be a good way to really boost those numbers, you know, encourage people to invite people to their team and bring in new runners. One thing that I wanted to call out, Running USA just sent out a runner survey, found that runners under 25 were 2.5 times more likely to prefer relay events compared to other age groups. That's the kind of thing that might be worth testing in your own market to see if that's actually a good way to bring in people who are a little bit younger and want to do something, you know, social and together. You can do team refunds by size. The other thing you can do if you don't want to do refunds, or if you do that and you want to do something extra and you want to like get mega teams with 20 or 30 people, do something fun on site with, you know, like have their own porta potty or a tent area or something that makes them feel like a big special group on site. Obviously that takes a little bit more work because we can't actually rent the tent for you, but it will track how many people are on your team and help you to fulfill those rewards. And if you're doing dynamic bib, you can also do different bibs for larger teams. So you could actually have a stack of bibs that are gold because that group of people, and it could be 5 different teams that hit certain thresholds, they're going to now get gold bibs. Okay. So that works not just with teams, it also works with fundraising. It also works with loyalty, which we'll cover in detail in a little bit. That's it. Yeah. You're up on it right now. All right, so bringing back participants. So the one thing that I just mentioned, loyalty, all right? How many of you guys have a loyalty program? Anyone? See 2 hands right now, okay? So a loyalty program can actually be free for you to operate. I just gave you one of the easiest ones. And if you go to some of the largest races in the country that have loyalty programs, you know what they do for the lowest hanging fruit loyalty? They give them a different bib. That's literally it. So, oh, you run it 2 years in a row, you get a different colored bib. So that is the lowest hanging fruit that cost you next to nothing to implement. You do dynamic bib or pre-assigned, and you literally are just giving them a different colored bib because they've done the race 2 years in a row and now they feel special. Okay. So that is an example. So loyalty programs on our platform, we have a lot of different features around it. It now is being used for more than just loyalty in the traditional sense. With this, you can create these loyalty lists that we can, download from repeat participant reports that we have. And you can build out your list and say, hey, these are the unique people that I want to get activated for the loyalty program. Our traditional loyalty program would allow you to set custom pricing. You can do unique registration dates for loyalty members. But now you can also tie a loyalty list to a reserved entry link. Okay. And therefore, it doesn't have to be anything specific, but instead, you're giving that loyalty group a unique URL for them to enter. And now they're getting whatever discount you want them to have, or in a list, which is a reserved entry list of, hey, these are the loyalty people, and these are the people that signed up because of the loyalty list that you've created and the loyalty program that you've created. All right. I like to think about it as getting very creative. I just gave you one easy one, which is literally a custom bib. Like that is as easy as you can get, right? But you have other ways. You can go $20 off. You can do VIP parking. I've seen VIP programs handed out for loyalty members. The Boilermaker that used to sell out all the time would literally have a unique range of, I think it was about 2 weeks, that loyalty people that had run it 5 years or more were allowed to register before anyone else because it was a sellout. Okay. So you get creative, you come up with some unique ideas, and you implement some loyalty. What that does is it drives up your return rate. So right now, an average race would probably return 35% of the participants every year.
18 pre-pandemic.
Wow. There you go, 18 pre-pandemic. But the larger ones are a little bit higher because they're really sellout races and they're really known. So the smaller races, we want to get them from 18 to 35, 40%, right? The way you do that is literally a loyalty program. As one of the easiest ways, and it's not hard to implement. So you get creative, you implement some fun stuff, and people come back. I'm going to move on to social strategy. Okay, so the two things that I talked about in the first session, the speed session, social sharing. I promote that instead of putting up your swag, you're going to put up people running together, because it's mostly females that sign up right now for races, and they like to run in groups, and they like to see females in that group. So definitely not a male sprinting to the finish line, right? You're gonna wanna have, and it doesn't even have to be people running. It can literally be the social aspect at the finish line, okay? Where they're all gathered together, or the start line.
That's
right?
the moment they're going to remember. So,
So those are the key photos that you get to share and you get to have when people are sharing your content, right? So those are the things that you want to put in your social sharing imaging. Facebook custom audiences. How many of you guys actually do Facebook ads right now? Okay, fair amount of you. Do you use custom audiences? Okay, so this is pretty easy to implement. If you aren't, there's two primary ideas, which I covered earlier, lookalike audiences. So you're going to say, hey, these are all the participants from 21, and I'm going to try and find new ones. And then you can actually exclude the 22 participants that have already signed up. So you can have two lists that are going, and you go, hey, I want to do a lookalike of 21, and here's the 22 people. And every week you update who's in the race and Facebook. So you're not advertising to the people that are already in your race, driving up your ads. Okay. So that's an easy one. Same thing can happen with Google, as pointed out. And then lastly, you do an exact ad as well for anyone that is not in 22, that is in 21. And those are your highest conversions. They should be, because they did the race last year and you should be able to get them in. Activate email. We have tons of email solutions. Obviously, our whole new platform is free to use, unlimited sends. I have one more that I would add to your system lists that you should import. And that is going to be, how many of you do referral programs? Any? Okay. So this is your number one target audience. These are your micro influencers. You're going to take all of the people that did referrals last year that had 2 or 3 referrals or more, You're going to import them in as a custom list, and you're going to try and get them back into your race, because they're the ones that are screaming from the fence tops going, hey, I'm doing this race. Come with me. They're your micro influencers. They're the ones that are driving the participation into your race. So you want them back in your race. That's your #1 target audience every year, hands down. Try and get those people back into your race, because they're the ones that are the micro influencers in the community. They either have their friends and family on tap for doing the race, or they have coworkers or so on, right? So beyond that, let's make sure that you customize the templates and the emails to look really professional. You guys have tons of tools and capabilities with templates now. Make sure you customize using our replacement tag, so you're not just talking to a broad audience, but very specifically to that person. Get personal in a sense and talk to them. Hey, Eric, we love that you did the race last year and you promoted it and you had 5 referrals and you got, a free entry. Don't forget to sign up this year. Here's the URL. Maybe here's $10 off. Why? Cost you nothing. Remember, they're going to refer 5 people and they're going to get the money back anyway, right? So think about that. All right.
There's only one slide on email marketing because there's a ton of time on email marketing later today. Getting creative, just kind of thinking through how all of your marketing efforts come together. There's a lot of stuff that you guys do to kind of throw a wide net, reach a lot of people, have good information on your website, which again, we're not covering really, because while it's important to your marketing, we cover it in a lot of other areas. Engaging people that you have with email marketing and newsletters, and going to community events, using pricing to really drive home, this is when you need to register now, and actually put in that call to action. The other thing that you really want to think about is like not just sticking with that group of information that you have. How do you use referrals, make those people work for you, and actually start to expand what your pool is. So building better referral programs, it looks like a lot of you have used them, so that's great. We'll go through this part pretty quickly. Referrals happen when someone convinces someone else to come with them. The system automatically creates a unique tracking link that the participant can share to track referrals. They, will share that event actually usually on social media, but they can share it in email or whatever they want. And when someone registers through, the system automatically tracks that they have that referral. What you can do with that then is put in all sorts of programs to reward the referrers and to encourage them to keep sharing. We've had about 8% of 2021 transactions from referrals in 2021. It was very high in 2020. I think we were at 18%. 8% is a little bit closer to what we've seen on average normally, but I think Eric has some good stories on.
Yeah, the largest one that I've seen is 51% of 5,000 people. Okay. And what they did is they compounded it. So it was a team event, and they basically said, hey, the teams need to get to a certain size. They promoted the referral program based on those team sizes. And the captains, for the most part, were the ones that got the referral rewards, but it compounded it. You couldn't pull that off without doing both, in a sense, right? And we have seen others that are in the 25, 30% range. So it's very possible to pull off well higher than 8%. I've seen it in multiple ways.
And to be fair, I mean, it only works if you are invested in doing it and you're communicating that program consistently to your participants, and you have a really easy to understand program that they understand that they're going to get a benefit from. The nice thing about referrals is that most people in general will not actually reach the threshold. So you don't necessarily owe everyone a refund, but they're still going to refer 1 or 2 people. So you're going to have some refunds you're going to pay out, but in general, you're going to have a lot of people who are going to bring a little bit of business to you that you won't even need to refund. And then you'll have people who will bring a ton of business to you that you may end up refunding and also buying them something and stuff, but they're going to have 10, 15 runners that sign up with them. So it's going to be worth it. Our general recommendation is at least 3 to 5 as your kind of threshold of how many referrals you need to get a reward of some sort, and a reward of at least $15. Obviously, it's going to vary depending on the cost of the race, how effective a dollar amount is, but having a threshold there that is worth them trying to share the event. The other thing you can do is do some stacking of refunds and swag. Swag rewards are very cool. The system will automatically track the referrals the same way that it does with refund rewards. And then when they reach their threshold, they'll get an email that says, you will have set this up in advance. You're getting a jacket. What size jacket do you need? So you don't have to remember to go back in and collect that information that you need for their swag. And then you'll be able to fulfill that and send them out the swag that they have. So what we see with a lot of really effective programs is that there's, maybe one lower level of a regular refund at second tier level that's either a higher refund or, relatively small level of swag, and then something that's really, really nice for the people who are just like super out there selling for you. The one thing I will say is if you want swag to work, like don't buy a $3 t-shirt or a race t-shirt that they can get. Otherwise, you want it to be really special and cool so that they actually feel like it's worth their effort and their time.
I'm going to add 2 more things to this. So 1, if you're doing the swag, you can allow non-registered participants to get a referral tracking link. So if you have an influencer in your community that is always at your races, but for some reason this year cannot do the race, give them a referral link and say, hey, we'd love for you to promote the race, and you're still going to get all the rewards that we normally would. Instead of the refund, I'm going to send you a gift card, a Visa gift card or a MasterCard gift card or whatever it is, okay? So now they're getting the exact same reward, and these people because they are effectively an influencer in your community, okay? And the other thing that I sort of just mentioned is it does not have to be swag. So if you're like, I cannot stand doing fulfillment, right? I do not want to have to go get a custom shirt and I want to connect with the younger audience. Those are 3 reasons that you could do a virtual Visa gift card or a virtual gift, okay? An Amazon gift card, a Visa gift card. That way you don't have to do anything. You literally just go buy it and email it to them. Now, all of a sudden you have fulfilled on your swag rewards and they're getting money in the pocket for all the work that they did to help promote your race.
Creative ideas. And I do not have virtual swag on here. That will have to get added. But just, yeah, I mean, think outside the box, try different stuff. If something doesn't work well one year, don't do it again. Try something different. This kind of goes back to what he was saying. You want to look for people in your community who can help sell things. Maybe they would register, but they don't know about your events. Reach out to people proactively. I think a lot of times people, particularly in endurance, which is like a very real type of event, it's something that we think of, athletes and people who are really invested. Don't consider influencers because they seem like very fancy people on the internet. You don't have to go after someone with 300,000 followers and pay them a lot of money. Look for smaller people in your community. They might be a run club leader. They might be just someone who has gone to a lot of races, who has a big presence online, and big can be a few thousand people. And they are not going to need a huge payment to work with you, but they might be happy to promote your race for a free entry or for some extra swag or for a gift card. And kind of reaching out to those people, identifying who in the community people will respect and look to, and trying to bring them in to be on your team and help reach the people that they know.
2 more parts on that. 1, don't focus on your age group all over the place. Second part, in that same vein, don't focus on just Facebook. You got TikTok, you got Instagram influencers. So you're across, and you think about it as like pegs, like 9 pegs. You have young people that are potentially on Facebook. You have young people on Instagram and TikTok. So you're trying to fill all of those, and that gives you a much wider and diverse population that your micro influencers are reaching. So if only have someone that's on Instagram, you're missing out on a whole bunch of people that are on TikTok. And if they're only in that 40 to 60 age group, you're missing out on the under 30. So make sure that you are trying to connect with the influencers, those micro influencers in your community that are across all of those segments.
Especially if, like me, you're not particularly comfortable on TikTok yourself, find other people who are. Along kind of a lot of those same lines, video, we're getting a lot of good feedback and return on video across a lot of different areas. Having good content on your website of video that is like, this is what race day looks like. Put together footage from your events and make sure it's there and say, this is what it looks like. This is how fun it is. You can repurpose that in a million ways then, both in terms of organic posting on social media. You can use it for advertising. for Reels on Instagram, put together different pieces of content throughout the year that are video. Social media really likes it, so it's more likely to show those to people. It's going to be put up top in people's feeds, and it also is something that's more engaging for them and really does help drive home. This is really fun, which is what we all want to do.
There's actually two parts to it that you can use video for. It can be engaging and entertaining, but it can also be educational. So you have the opportunity to talk about training programs and how to train for the race, because you have a buildup that might be 3, 4, 5 months. You can build up to that. And then the other part that I'm actually going to mention is when you do these video pieces, you're going to find which ones are actually the most engaging. There's no shame in redoing that exact most engaging piece of content with new video content, right? So you know that all of a sudden you did a post and it was about the finish line or about the medals or about the post-race party, and it had cool video, but now you have more recent content of video. Just update it and redo the exact same content. It's 30-second video or a 90-second video. You're just repurposing what was engaging to try and hit that same audience again about your event.
And lastly, I think this is not actually last, it's last of this section. I think that the main point, as we've been noting, don't be afraid to try different things. There is actually, while races are struggling to find participants, there's a lot of races that haven't come back, which means there are a lot of open spots on a calendar. If you want to try something that is lower risk and come up with a new concept, test out something that is a little bit different. You can go kind of all different directions. You can try something with like the nicest swag you've ever seen and try to get people who are really excited with that. You can also try a really low frills event and see, can you pull some trail runners who are like, I'm tired of paying for t-shirts. I'd rather do this less expensive event that I don't get anything. We're seeing a lot of people that want to join as a family. So making it easy for, parents and kids to come and participate together in some way. Test out, some areas that you can try that, or a series. Themes, I will say, try a different theme. Like rather than doing a, jingle bell run, I don't know, have a snow or an ice cream in December run and see, try something that is wild and off the walls. We have a grilled cheese and tomato soup run that people get really excited about, because who does that? So think about stuff that is like kind of weird and crazy, and try to bring that in. And again, do these on a small scale in areas where there is not an event currently. You have the opportunity to test some stuff and use this time to figure out what's going to work in the next 10 years.
All right, tracking your
This is the
ROI.
best part.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, no pressure. So we have a lot of tracking tools and techniques to use for tracking your basic marketing engagement, right? So in that, creativity only leads to long-term success when you're actually tracking and measuring the work that you put into it and the money that you put into it, right? So that's why we built a lot of these tracking tools that you can then implement and literally see the data at your fingertips. We do have Facebook Pixel and now the conversion API. So I don't know of anyone that even knows why, right, in here. The reason why we had the conversion API is because Apple and Facebook and Google got into a big fight. And they basically said, you're stealing our privacy information on our users. So Apple basically started to block all of that. And if you have an Apple phone, you get this pop-up every once in a while when you upload or update your app that says, do you want to get your information tracked, right? So that tracking doesn't happen now because a lot of people opt out of that tracking. The conversion API allows Facebook to sort of finish the loop, if you will, and know that you came from an app or Facebook's app and know that, hey, it came from either Instagram or Facebook. So you know that the ads were converted because of Facebook ads. So that's why there's a conversion API. And this is always evolving. So that is one thing that you should leverage. We're not seeing a huge drop off yet, basically because not everyone has updated their Facebook apps and Instagram apps, but there is a drop off of people that are allowing the tracking to happen. Sitewide codes. So, from many different sources, obviously TikTok triggers on page views, they initiate checkout and payment conversion confirmation. So we do have TikTok as another one, but you can see all those up there. The other one that I would that we have that I know is used a ton would be Google's tracking and Google Analytics. So Racelnsights custom source tracking. This is like one of my favorites. Okay. So when we talk about QR codes, when you talk about, hey, I might be sending a mass text SMS because you have awesome text message services outside of ours, and it's marketing related, use a source tracking link. And what that does is it allows you to actually see the conversion. So if you're advertising offline, you're putting up a billboard with a huge QR code. Yeah, create a source tracking link that is literally billboard. How much did you spend on it? $2,000. And then you get to go in and you actually get to see the ROI on that billboard, right? So that is why we have it. So you get to add the dollar amounts to track the ROI, and you get to see how many people actually scan that QR code of a billboard, hopefully not on a highway, right? But that you get the idea. All the pamphlets, when you're going to events, you can have unique QR codes. All you're going to do is go, hey, here's this URL, and it could be a source tracking link to ours, or it could be a special page on your website. You're going to do QR code on that. Okay. I prefer the source tracking because then you get to do all sorts of A/B testing as well. So you set these up. All right. Source tracking, you can see, add the code, you create the code, and all it is a very simple description, billboard, pamphlets, whatever you want to do, right? You literally could do pamphlets for, let's say you have 2 running stores that you work with. You want to see which one promotes the race better. You could do 2 sets of pamphlets, drop one set to one store and drop one set to the other, and you literally would know which one's really promoting your events for you. So now all of a sudden you get those source tracking links, and you can drop them into QR code creators. You can put them into a short URL creator, so it shortens the URL. Okay. Now, here's the tracking in action. This is on the dashboard, literally the dashboard. At the bottom, it says there's 3 things, and I pointed out at the speed round, there's 3 things: like email, custom, and referral. So this is your custom. So you blow that out. It drops down all of the actual source tracking links that you've created, how many page views, how many signups, the transaction dollars, the donation dollars, and so forth. And you get to do A/B testing is another huge feature with this. So let's say you are using MailChimp. You can literally create 3 or 4 or 5 different audiences, and you can break and segment up that audience with different source tracking to know what messaging is working. Right? Same thing could be done with SMS. Same thing could be done with brochures. Same thing could be done with anything. So when you start talking what is working, what is connecting with your audience, you can segment as much as you want and source track as much as you want. I personally believe that segmenting maybe 3, 4 max, because you start to look at like, hey, I don't have that big of a race. There's cost and time segmenting. So therefore segment a little bit to get your best message for everyone, and then mass email and communicate that message. So now you update your marketing spend based on what is effective. Okay. So the initial phase is literally learning with A/B testing. And then from there, that's the messaging that worked the best. And in this case, you can actually see email audience 1 had the most signups. So this race literally took email audience 1 and that messaging and repeated it for 3 more months and sold out the race. All right, any questions? Tried to finish on time.
11:59:59. All
We
right.
covered some questions. Is there no more? Come on now.
Well, it is lunchtime, which might be preventing questions. If you guys want to go grab lunch, you can. You can always also find us later for questions. And I think we are back at 1:15. I'll remind people there's going to be some sessions upstairs and some back down here at that time. You can go grab lunch.
Thank you.